She is a member of the class of 2014 in the College of Arts and Sciences. She is pursuing a major in sociology and a minor in African diaspora studies with a concentration in the intersections of race, class, gender, and sexuality. Kayla is currently a McNair Scholar, and this past summer she had the opportunity to conduct research on Black women's perceptions of interracial relationships. Some of Kayla's work has been featured in Boston College's sociology undergraduate journal, Social Lives. Kayla also has worked with a number of different professors within the Boston College community and is currently researching the social psychological impact that the Philadelphia school shutdown, where 23 public schools were closed, has on students within the district of Philadelphia. All right, Kayla.
So, my name is Kayla Preito-Hodge, one more time. I'm doing research on interracial relationships. So I want you to keep this picture in mind the entire time that we're having this talk, and I'll come back to it a little bit later. So what got me interested in this? A couple of different things. So I guess I'll start with my childhood. So I grew up in a home with several Black women, one of which was my great-grandmother, who often told me stories about her childhood growing up. And one particular story that has stuck with me until this day and still really inspires me to do what I do in sociology was her story about the Ku Klux Klan coming to her house when she was younger for her father. Because her father was so much darker than her mother, they thought her mother was a white woman. So this was like the first real exposure to interracial, the idea of interracial relationships. So coursework has also inspired me, and the most recent thing that has inspired me was a conversation that I had with a pastor in which this pastor told me that if I wanted to get married, that I would have to date interracially. And the reason why he said this was because he believed that it wasn't enough marriageable Black men with high educational attainment. So what are some of the other scholars saying about this? Some scholars are saying that Black women are less likely to engage in interracial intimate relationships. Others are saying that Black women think far more in advance about relationships than white women. Some are saying that Black women have a multi-dimensional personhood that enables them to often shelter and protect Black men. And Karen Fallon, who is the author of Don't Bring a White Boy Home, says that there is a double standard when it comes to interracial relationships in the Black community. And she got this idea from a study that she actually did, and I'll read you the quote from one of her participants. And he says, "The reason is the things that men say about Black women. It's always sexual. Let's go chase some black ass, things like that. But of course, I've heard Black men say that about Black women too. And I've heard Black men make comments about, excuse me, about seeking out white women for sexual reasons. I guess it's a double standard." So other scholars are saying that interracial relationships are less about love and more about power. And Black women are oftentimes blamed for Black men stepping out. And this is said by Michael Eric Dyson, and he basically says that there are many social scientists, armchair analysis, ghetto critics, and some Black women themselves who believe that it is Black women who set impossibly high standards for potential partners. To be sure that there are many other reasons besides high standards that keep Black women from marrying, including their educational achievements and socioeconomic standings, both of which are higher on average than Black men's, the substantial mortality gap between Black men and women, the disproportionate incarceration rate of Black men, the poor labor force participation of Black men. And so he just goes on with that point. So next I wanna just show you a clip.
Yeah, so this one would like to, she says, "I'm sorry, but I would like to challenge some of your Black male readers. I am a white female who is engaged to a Black male, good-looking, educated, and loved. I just don't understand a lot of Black female attitudes about our relationship. My man decided he wanted me because the pickings among Black women were slim to none. As he said, they were either too fast, too loud, too mean, too argumentative, too needy, too materialistic, and carrying too much excess baggage. Before I became engaged, whenever I went out, I was constantly approached by dark men willing to wine and dine me and give me the world. If black women are so up in arms about us being with their men, why don't they look at themselves and make some changes? I am tired of dirty looks like that. It's nice parts and we're out in public talk. I would like to hear from some black men about why we are so appealing and coveted by them. But right now, I'm a little angry, and that's why it was just so hurtful. Don't be mad at us white women because we are Europeans on us. Get your act together and learn from us, and we may lead you to treat your men better. And I'm wrong, white men, let me know.
That's not the only, the only comments that have been made about black women taking care of black men. Robin Thicke also said something, I think in Ebony magazine, he said basically that black women need to take care of black men more. Maybe they're not apologizing as much, which is why black men step out. So this is a common theme, that blaming black women for black men stepping outside of their race to date. So black relationships, Patricia Hill Collins, who's a professor at the University of Maryland, she's a distinguished sociology professor, one of my favorite. She says that black relationships become unhealthy and that they try to mimic white hegemony. So what this basically means is that in trying to conform to a white standard, black relationships often fail because it's just unhealthy to try to conform to that standard in the first place, and to mimic that is just promoting chaos within the black community as well. So what exactly are we studying? So I asked an array of questions, not just questions about interracial relationships. I asked questions about race and love, just to get a bigger picture of how black women interpreted these things. So we're specifically looking for how black women interpret interracial relationships between whites and blacks. So the methodology, they were semi-structured interviews. It was 14 interviews, semi-structured, 12 women, 2 men. And the initial interviews took place at 2 hair salons, both of which I grew up in. And why did I choose hair salons? One, because I feel like that's a place where any woman can be comfortable, and I'm pretty sure that you guys can attest to that. I don't know, but for me personally, I know that's why I chose hair salons. And I got a snowball sample. So what that actually means is that I got initial contacts, and then I got contacts from those initial contacts. And the requirements for participation was that you had to be black and you had to have some tie to U.S. slavery. That was important to me because just looking at the atrocities that happened during slavery with black women and white men, such as rape, was very important to me anyway, in my decision on why, I may or may not engage interracially. So they had to be heterosexual. Why heterosexual? Because I feel like sexuality adds on a level of oppression when speaking of anything, actually. And they had to be between the ages of 18 and 50, and the study was inductive. So out of the 14 participants, 3 had no college education. 1 of them reported being a college dropout, and 10 out of the 14 were currently enrolled in college or had just previously graduated. And 2 out of those 10 were actually enrolled in graduate programs in both sociology and social work. So all 14 participants, surprisingly, admitted that they didn't believe that we lived in a post-racial society, a society in which race no longer existed. So 6 out of the 12 women showed disdain towards interracial relationships. One quote in particular was from Maria Belvedere, and she was 30 years old, and she basically said that, I've had white guys approach me and say, I would like to take you out. No, it felt like creepy. Like, no, I don't want to go out with you. You know what I mean? And I felt bad because I wasn't viewing this man as a person. I was more so viewing him as a race. And Kelly Childs, who was 36, I'll just summarize this quote. She basically said that she would not feel comfortable dating outside of her race because she did not feel comfortable with going to festivals like Juneteenth, which celebrated the emancipation of slavery, and Martin Luther King Day parades and stuff like that with somebody that is not within her race. So 2 out of those 6, after saying that they would never engage interracially, changed their minds and said that they would date interracially instead of marry interracially. And this was a very key component that my professors told me to keep on looking at, but I just was just like, oh, well, you know, date and marry is the same thing, but no, obviously it's very different. So both of the men said that they would not engage interracially, and obviously this was not representative to all Black men, it was just these two. And 3 out of the other 6 women said that they would be willing to engage interracially actually did, and 2 out of those 3 encountered issues within their relationships when dating interracially. So this quote is from Quinn, who was 47. And she said, "My family on my father's side didn't appreciate it. My family on my mother's side, I would have to say half and half. His family, his father was straight against it. He was just like, straight no." So this quote not only spoke to the idea of, you know, his father and the white side not accepting it, but it also was very gender specific. Her father said it and his father said it. So all of the participants reported that they believed that Black men were more likely to engage in interracial relationships. And all of the Black female participants, with an exception of 1 and the 2 males, believed that Black males struggle far more than Black women. The one female participant as well as the 2 male participants said that this was a question that needed to be answered through a very gender-specific lens, acknowledging Black women's and Black men's struggle. So some of the female participants felt the need to separate themselves from other Black women. And this is a quote. I'm not going to read it just because of time. And some Black women felt that Black men were weak for engaging interracially. And I actually have a quote from Michael Eric Dyson. He says, "As a symptom of the attempt to escape or avoid intimate contact with the women who have loved and nurtured our race, it can be a sign of utter self-hatred and hatred of our group's most powerful and loyal members. One of the most vicious legacies of white supremacy is the belief that our women are not beautiful, desirable, intelligent, and not worthy of our love." So most of the female participants had negative feelings towards other Black women, and this was pretty interesting with the idea of unity. This one woman, who was Teller Nicole Smith, she not only showed disdain towards Black women, but she characterized all women as being like catty and always negative. So this was really interesting in the idea of like an internalized aspect of oppression of women being bitchy, so to say. So both Black men acknowledged that Black women are fed up with the state of the Black community. And some of the female participants believed that Black men had an issue with the progress of Black women. And I have another quote for that. "Black male resentment of Black female achievement, especially among Black men who have not enjoyed the opportunity to succeed, may translate to unwarranted hostility towards Black women. Many brothers feel that Black women are pawns of a white establishment that seeks to hold them down. As a result, Black female movement through educational and professional ranks is to some Black men a symptom of Black women's complicity with the racist system. Black men oftentimes confuse the consequences of racism with the desire of Black females to undercut them." So that was a quote by Michael Eric Dyson as well, and that spoke much to what this woman felt. She was in business, and she felt like anytime that she got a promotion, she wasn't applauded by her Black male counterparts, and instead she was like, you know, kind of criticized for moving up the ladder. So some of the participants felt that skin tone had a big thing to do with interracial relationships. And this was interesting because I never actually thought about it until she actually brought it up, and she basically said that you would more so see dark-skinned women with white men. And I don't know how true this is, but when you think about it, if you are dating interracially, it's just like you would try to, I guess, move as far as possible. And usually in the Black community, lighter skin is more desirable. And I guess lighter skin is more of an equation with whiteness, so to speak. So I thought that was pretty interesting that she made the observation that when white men do engage in interracial relationships, they do so with darker women. So as far to get further from whiteness. So my thoughts. So this picture, I'll tell you my thoughts on this picture first. So this picture, I actually saw the opposite first. So I saw a black man saying, "Stop struggling with her and go get you one of them," or whatever the case may be. But I saw this picture and I was honestly super disturbed on so many different levels, because it's promoting so much self-hatred and so much hatred towards black males and black females with the opposite picture. Yeah, it's just, and it's very just like, stop struggling with him and get you one of them. It's just very, it makes it seem like the issue is black and white when it's not. It's a lot of gray areas, because it's a lot of things that you have to think about when engaging in interracial relationships, such as racism and different types of oppression that come along with each partner. So my personal thoughts and my personal feelings on it. So, this goes back to my personal history with my grandmother, her telling me the story when I was young. Her telling me this story just kind of distanced me from that idea, and just her having to lie about, why her mother's skin was so light. Not telling me that, well, her grandmother was raped or something like that, but telling me that, oh, well, we're mixed with Native Americans. So, to make herself feel better and to make me feel better and to make everybody else feel better, instead of that idea of rape. So my personal feelings is that, it's not for me. So what's next? So I wrote an article on it, and it's under review for publication. So after this study, I want to gather more participants and expand the study to homosexual couples, because like I said, it is definitely interesting to look at the dimensions that sexuality has on interracial relationships. And that's it.